We're opening up today's video in the beautiful national park of Cinque Terre, and we're about to drop down into Riomaggiore to go along the coast and enjoy an incredible scenery.
And we should specify, yes, this video is still going to be us reminiscing about our 5 years living abroad, but we're just going to be doing it in a stunning location. So let's get into it.
Up down the line, it's a long run, and any long ride is better with someone. There's plenty more to do and plenty to be done. And oh, just look how far we've come. Count the hours, each and every one.
So one of the top things we have taken away with our 5 years living abroad is the ability to have our cultural lens broadened. Honestly, prior to the move to Germany, we were fairly well traveled, I would say. Tanner and I went on a backpacking trip to Southeast Asia, and we got to experience countries that many don't. For example, we explored India, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Indonesia, New Zealand, Australia, and we actually stepped foot in Tahiti. We also had Belize and a couple other countries included on that list. However, living here in Europe has really broadened our perspective on Western culture and countries. It's been really eye-opening for us. We grew up feeling like the USA was the greatest country in the world. And some of our experience traveling kind of strengthened that perspective, honestly. However, soon after we moved to Germany, that belief was challenged. And now the way we see the US has changed. And with that, we should say the USA in the past 5 years has changed a lot.
Another aspect that has helped us deepen our cultural lens has been the number of traditions that are in each of the countries we've lived in. For example, in Japan, being able to go to the different shrines and the different temples, and then even the festivals that they have that have been going on for hundreds, if not thousands of years, is really incredible because you get to see the community come together.
As part of the Shinto religious ceremony in the old days.
And this doesn't mean that the US doesn't have similar activities where it's been traditionally passed on for a couple hundred years. It's just the difference where something's been passed on for 800, 900, or 1,000 years, but there's this deeper sense of tradition with it, and it's really fun to experience. And then of course there's so many historical sites here in Italy that are thousands of years old. Coming along the coast here in Cinque Terre, a lot of these places, these small fishermen villages, have been around for quite a long time, so the historical context really helps deepen the experience. And then we've also been able to participate in some of the cultural activities. Namely, here in Italy, we've been able to go to a soccer match. I went to one in Bochum in Germany. That was incredible. Being able to have European soccer atmosphere has been really fun. And then quite by coincidence, last night we were finishing up my work trip just a few hours south from here, and we were at a hotel, and I come home and there are two big buses with AC Milan written on the side. And if you don't know anything about AC Milan, they are one of the top clubs here in Italy for soccer, football, calcio, and it was cool to really see how many people from the local community from Pisa and Livorno come to the hotel waiting for pictures and autographs, and it was a really cool experience because I was a guest of the hotel. I got to wait inside, and we were able to see Luka Modric and Christian Pulisic and many other of the top players from AC Milan, so kind of a really fun, unique experience. Ciao.
Just look how far we've come.
Another very obvious benefit of living in a country that doesn't speak English is learning the language. And that's something that for me has become even increasingly more important that our girls are learning a new language, because I've seen so much benefit from my work and just like the relationships that I've been able to have with people, the interactions that I get with locals has really deepened my experience and my enjoyment of living abroad. For all of us, it really has been. Ever since our kids were old enough to, they started attending like the local schools or daycares. Willa did that at Kita in Germany, and then she went to Yochin in Japan, and then now both of our girls are attending the local Italian schools. Willa in first grade, and then Noah attending asilo, or like the daycare. And really for both of them, they have grown so much. Kids are just like sponges. They adapt very well if given the opportunity, and so having them get so many hours for several days during the week has really given them an opportunity that hopefully will carry on throughout their entire lives and help them to learn and hold on to languages. Now, many of you who are watching have asked, how are the girls keeping up on their German? And to be quite honest, Willa was the only one that really grabbed onto it. So we've made the decision right now to just be focusing on Italian. And that's just because she is still learning quite a bit, and she has homework and she's doing classes all day. But we are hoping to be able to reintroduce some of the German there. So unfortunately, it hasn't been a priority, but we just honestly had to be realistic with ourselves, given our schedule, the many moves that we've been doing, and just trying to focus on the quality rather than the quantity. Before we move on from this one, I will say there are plenty of opportunities for kids nowadays, especially with like dual immersion schools for Chinese, Portuguese, Spanish, like within the town where we grew up. That's now available for the kids. That wasn't when we were younger. We love that that's happening, but being in a community where in order to really survive, like here in Italy, to communicate in Italian has been a really great way for us to just dive in and get that immersion experience.
While the kids are playing at the playground with the most stunning backdrop, I mean, what a view. I can't imagine what it's like growing up here. This area is experiencing a lot of mass tourism, and so I'm just so happy we're able to come in the off season. What a privilege, what a privilege. We're the only ones that on the trail so far, given we've only been on the trail for probably like 10 to 15 minutes, but still, I consider that to be pretty lucky. And speaking of our kids, something else that I consider to be a really big benefit to living abroad has been the safety aspect. Europe and life in Japan has felt very, very safe for us and our family, especially when it comes to our kids. In the past 5 years, the US has experienced some really troubling statistics in regards to school shootings in public areas. It's been really disheartening. The small towns where we grew up feel very safe, and I would still say are. However, as a whole, as I've mentioned, the US has just changed a lot. And my perspective on safety in the US has definitely changed. So I love being able to feel confident knowing that our babies are safe at the schools that they're at. I love knowing that they don't have to practice active shooter drills. I think it's very important that kids in the States are practicing it. However, I am sure that is a huge contributor to anxiety and nerves in kids, in 6-year-olds. Like that would be Willa attending kindergarten, attending first grade. And those are big conversations to have as a parent, to be able to prepare your kid to go to school. I can't imagine, and I'm very happy I haven't had to address that. Now I'm going to break it up just a little bit to be a little more specific about our experiences. So we lived in a very, very small village in Germany. It was very rural. It was in the countryside. We loved it. It was so quiet, so peaceful, right next to the forest. There was one issue in the middle of the night in Germany where we woke up and we noticed a car was outside in our driveway. I don't know, somewhere between like 1 to 3 a.m. and it was very alarming. We told the landlord and they put up a camera, like a hunting camera on our garage. Come to find out it was the mailman. Other than that, there was no reason for us to even speculate. So we left our very safe and peaceful home in Germany and we moved to a city, a metropolis city in Japan, in Yokosuka. Even though the population was so large, we still felt very safe. The streets where our house was experienced actually quite a bit of foot traffic. So there were people coming and passing by often, but we never felt uncomfortable. Our things would be outside of our house and they were always safe. During our time there and even a little bit afterwards, we have some friends that have lived in similar neighborhoods to us in Yokosuka, and a couple of them have experienced some weird things. I do think that there is some petty theft and some strange experiences happening even in a very safe country as Japan, but for the most part, we felt very, very safe in Japan. Now, here in Italy, this is actually, out of all three of them, the country where we feel the least safe. Right now in Vicenza, there tends to be a decent amount of petty theft going on, and there's quite a bit of conversation going on that Americans are being targeted. So just a couple weeks ago, I came home from dropping Willa off at school and running some errands to our gate open. Most houses here have gates for security reasons, and ours was wide open. And it scared me, to be honest, because there have been many other Americans who's had their houses broken into, and I hate that because naturally when I hear that, I start to feel a little bit more cautious, which isn't a bad thing to be cautious, but I don't want to live in a constant state of worry. Nothing was broken into, our windows weren't broken into, nothing was gone. It seemed like there was no signs of anyone coming into our home, but it did look like the gate box was broken and that potentially someone tried to stand on it and it broke. That has not been fun, and it has added an extra level of concern for us. Naturally, we're a little bit more on guard, doing the basics of just trying to practice safety and protection, you know, always locking our car, making sure all of our shutters and doors and everything are locked. However, I would say other than that, daily life here in Italy feels very safe. Like we mentioned, sending our girls to school, being able to walk on the streets, walking on the trails, it feels safe. So overall, with the exception of like some of our time here in Italy, Europe and Japan has felt very, very safe for us. And I would say that where we grew up in Utah also feels very, very safe. So it's hard to compare because we're comparing huge cities to medium-sized cities to small towns. In a sense, it seems like apples to oranges to bananas that we're comparing. But the statistics are definitely in the favor of the European countries, especially when it comes to gun safety, kids' school safety, and we have felt that.
Mangia adesso?
That's a salmon.
Salmon?
Yeah.
Grazie, amore. Girls made us dinner at the playground. This is salmon and this is zuppa. Cos'è questa?
No, I gave it to you. Oh, it's
Pane?
pizza. Butter?
Pane e pizza.
And that was the background noise behind, if you heard. This is stunning. Wow. I feel like we just got the local experience.
Just look how far we've come. Oh, just look how far we've come.
Walk piano.
We've only just begun. Some days will age, but the day's still young. It's an open highway to let the engine run. Oh, just look how far we've come. There's a long way to go. There's living to be done.
So we ended up taking the train here to the next city. Is it Mandalore? No.
What?
Is that a Star Wars thing?
Yes.
What is it, Mandalore?
Manola.
Manola. That sounds
there's
more
a
Italian.
Manola.
Because
Manola.
the walking trail that they have, like the Amore Trail, it does not connect here. So you can walk on it and pay like €35 for 2 people, but you cannot actually get to this town via that trail. So we took the train, we're gonna go and explore.
So the place is actually called Manarola. I told Risa wrong. And it's really been fun to take like transportation throughout Europe. That is one thing that we didn't really talk about, but that is a very fun thing to be so interconnected to places all throughout Europe and in Japan when we were there. But unfortunately for the US, the car has dominated the transportation scene. And so travel by train in the US is sparse. You can still find it, but it's definitely sparse. Now, as we've been talking about safety, looking back to how it was, to how it is now, things have changed. We notice the difference of not having our kids have active shooting drills. We look from the outside in here in Europe into the States, and we see there are major policy changes, major political changes, which, to be quite honest, feel kind of like we're watching a movie of something that people would fantasize of doing. We as Americans overseas now are feeling that added pressure, even though we didn't vote for these changes to happen. We didn't want these changes. The image of what America is and the image of who Americans are is unfortunately being tainted, in our opinion. And I think this will paint a really good picture for you of how Europeans' perspectives on Americans has been changing. When we first moved to Italy and we would share with people that we were American, of course I tried to speak in Italian, but like they would know my accent. Like I would share that I'm American, and most of the time there was like a pretty neutral feeling, or they would ask us where specifically. But with everything that's been going on with ICE and a lot of the immigration and other policies, and with Greenland, to name just a few, I've noticed a big shift even among Italians. I went to a cafe the other day and I was sitting there with one of my daughters. We were talking to a family with a young kid in a stroller, just sharing conversation, all in Italian, and they asked me where I was from. And when I mentioned that I was from the US, you could visibly tell the looks on their faces went a little more melancholy, and they were a little bit more quiet for a few seconds. And until I continued to carry on the conversation and share about our experience and how we really enjoyed it here, then like their mood kind of got brought a little bit back up, but it was never the same. And I know that this has happened several times to me, and it's becoming increasingly apparent that there is a negative image even to Americans who are living overseas. And I wonder if this is how a lot of Germans have felt given the history, or maybe Russians who don't stand with the policies that are happening. I'm almost kind of getting the same vibe as this is how they would feel, and this is how they would kind of be treated, with kind of those initial impressions that are being given to all of the people from that country. And I'm not here to say pity me, but I am just noticing that this is becoming more apparent. That's difficult because I want to have an open mind when I meet anyone, because I know people can live in a place that might not have the best policy, but they have deep hearts, they're open arms, and they truly see people for people. That's, I guess, kind of one of the things that we're experiencing. I always will have like this sense of American pride, but it's different. It's changed. Just as we mentioned before, we no longer see America as the greatest country in the world, the best of the best. Like, we have the best opportunities, we have the best of everything, because we know different now. We've seen differences, and we know that that's just no longer true. And we can also recognize there are many opportunities that happen in America that don't happen in other places. But some of the areas that hit the hardest, like childcare, healthcare, safety, affordability, are becoming unattainable for so many people. Not just in the US, in Europe as well, but especially in the US. And honestly, it's just hard to look back and see where a lot of the country has gone to. But I will say that that doesn't mean that that's how every American thinks. There are so many people who stand up for what is considered right, what is considered humane, and they really want to build America to be an incredible place to live, to be a society that like makes others feel welcome. Fortunately, that just isn't exactly the message that's being given across. And honestly, that has forced a lot of people to think about where they want to live, where they want to raise their kids. And just for an example, I had a high school friend reach out to me not like less than a month ago. We're asking questions about moving overseas, about sharing these concerns that they no longer wanted to raise their family there, and they didn't feel like they wanted to stand up for those values. And honestly, I think it's a big step to take. It's a big thing to admit in the first place that maybe where they live isn't somewhere that they want to stay. And we've also had discussions with people who have lived in other places around the world, and they look back at the US and it's not recognizable in so many ways. And they've expressed reasons why they're very happy that they're raising their kids outside of the area where they were raised. We're not saying that one way is better than another, but we're telling you our story and our feelings about how moving abroad has been a huge change for us, and we are very grateful that our kids are being raised up with the experiences that they had outside of the US currently. I guess if I didn't make it apparent enough, we are happy that we are not in the middle of all of the political upheaval that is going on in the US right now.
And our battery died, so we finished out the hike and experienced a beautiful view. It is definitely worth going up to the observation point in that town. Stunning, stunning, stunning. One of the last things we wanted to talk about was the travel experiences. That is a huge one for us, and honestly was the main reason we wanted to move abroad, was to be able to have travel at our fingertips and have it be so accessible. Germany was such a central location, And then after living there for 3 years, we thought, you know, we've learned, we've grown, we want to continue being immersed in new cultures and learning more about the world. So that's why we accepted the job offer to Japan. Japan was such a cultural explosion. So many new foods, flavors, languages that we heard. We absolutely loved it there, and we had a lot of fun traveling that country as well. Being back in Italy, though, we've had to say is the best location that we've had in terms of travel, and we love the central location that we're at. Yes, Northern Europe is further away from us as compared to it was in Germany, but there's so much on the southern part of Europe that we've really been so excited to explore and to see, and this summer we're about to do more of it. So we couldn't end out the video without mentioning travel, and with that, the food that comes with it. Tonight we had an amazing dinner. Willa's choice actually was a ramen place here in La Spezia, and we didn't have plans to come downtown, but because Willa talks about ramen so often, she really misses it. We couldn't say no because this place was highly rated and it wasn't quite authentic Japanese ramen, but we still enjoyed it. Did you like the ramen?
Yes.
Yes. We hope you guys enjoyed this video. We absolutely had a blast today. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next video.
No, just look how far we've come. Oh, just look how far we've come.